is off the chain.
Well, I'm going to tell you, when this first happened, I thought, here we go again. And I was watching very closely as to what the composition of the jury would be, because I thought, we keep hoping with all hope that at some point a jury and a judge will get it right with all these unarmed black men and women being murdered by police. And so a little hope came when the jury showed up, because I think in most people's minds who've been looking for justice, they got a bit excited when they saw this mixed jury with, Asians. A majority of the jury panel, I think, was black, and it was a mixture there. And so in the state of Florida, and you're going to have to explain this.
Not Texas. You keep saying.
Why do I keep saying Florida?
Let me say something to you, and it's so amazing to me. When we changed over from Recorder's Court to Third Circuit, everybody was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be terrible. More African Americans were acquitted than were convicted. There is the fact that you have an all African American jury and you black. Don't get that twisted. You know why? Because in certain cases, especially assaultive case, they see through it and they will convict because they're afraid. We live behind bars every day. So we're a little bit more afraid of people who are charged with crimes than would be people in the suburbs that don't live behind gates every day. Every day we go to work, we come back home, we got a prison, we got an alarm to get in there, alarm to get out of there. We got bars on every window to remind us that crime is rampant.
The point I was making was, in most of these cases that have gone to trial, because too many haven't gone to trial,
right?
We've seen all white juries clear police officers. So
yeah, well, that's obviously.
And so when there appeared to be a diverse jury, there was some hope that maybe this jury is going to do the right thing. Explain to us why in some states the sentence that's handed out is done so by the jury and sometimes by the judge.
It's just a legislative mandate. So what it was, the state reps and the Congress of the state decided that would be the best thing. Remember, the founding fathers wanted us to have a jury trial, so it would be a trial by your peers. Mm-hmm. So some states have taken the extreme reach and say that you should be sentenced by your peers. It's not uncommon. There are several states, and even there's a federal stage of it when you're going for the death penalty. So it's something that's not uncommon to us. However, what we need to do is, even in most of the cases when you talk about acquittals, mm-hmm. you still got black people on that jury. And let me just say this to you. It gets to the point where, as the state representatives say, we got to get more people that's brown on the outside and brown on the inside. I'm going to leave that alone. But anyway.
Let's talk about this judge. I was trying to wait to get to her, but I can't.
Okay, let's hit her.
I first wanted to ask you, what were the legal issues in this case? And we'll get back to that. But I'm still reeling over a judge who would step down from the bench to hug a convicted defendant, hand her a Bible. If she really wanted to do that, I would think she would have done it out in her chambers or some other place. But when it seems like it's unethical to me, but go ahead.
It's not. It's not at all. Let me say this to you about black people. We the first to forgive and the last to hold accountable. That's just who we are. We're emotional beings. We're going to forgive everybody and hold nobody accountable. What do you mean? Because when it comes time to vote, we're not going to do anything. When we looked at Ferguson, it went up. The voting went up by 2%. You should have been outraged.
A mere 2%.
You understand that? But time had passed, so we was all right with that. We got to get away from that. What we see, and I just want to get into that and I'm going to get back, is that with the election of Trump and very conservative people, the majority gets it. Their vote matters. So they wake up everybody in the house and they make sure that they go vote. If it's not a black person, if we're not excited about the election, it don't matter. It matters. Because look at what Trump is doing. Forget the bigger things. He's putting very conservative judges in place that are young. That means that for the next 30 years, his agenda will go forward. And we got to remember that. Stop being the first to forgive and the last to hold accountable. But here's the situation. I believe that it was very emotional. Looking at the sentence, the young man was overcome and, he requested that, which I still don't even think she should have given him that, because she then allowed emotion to take over her court. She should have said, not at this time, young man. This is not the proper venue. Because it was just too emotional. And she was overcome. Is it illegal? Absolutely not. Is it appropriate? Yes, I would say that. But it's not something that, it's illegal. She doesn't need her job. She's emotional. And that's what we have seen throughout, hundreds of years. We forgive fast, but we don't hold accountable. And I hope that to the people that are listening, I'm outraged by that. Make sure that you take your cousin to vote when we go. It don't matter who's in that race. If they black, white, make sure you vote, because then that's how we hold people accountable. And that's what needs to be done. She was overcome by emotion, but she shouldn't have let the brother of the victim go there. That's when she lost control. She should have said, that's not appropriate at this time, let's move forward. Having been a former judge, it gets very excited in there. You become emotional. And the hard thing is to contain that emotion, because you're human. You don't check your humanness in. You bring that out to you on the bench. And sometimes some people let more of that humanness slip out, opposed to restraining it with the law. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. 313-298-1059 is our number here on the Milred Gaddis Show. Attorney Vonda Evans, and it's going to take a long time for us to not say Judge Vonda Evans here, who is now in private practice. Her law firm is Vonda's Law. I know you've seen those. And by the way, those are some bad billboards.
Thank you so much.
I don't know who did the work on those billboards, but they are just fascinating. We're going to give you the number if you need to reach out to her at the end of the show. So be ready for that. What were the legal issues in this case?
Self-defense. Self-defense says that you can use deadly force if you believe that you have an honest and reasonable belief that your life is in jeopardy of being killed, being murdered, sexually assaulted. Even if it turns out you are wrong, the issue then becomes, what would a reasonable person look in the situation of that person? Was this the relative strengths or weaknesses? Was a person bigger than me? Were there any previous threats? The lighting. You have to look at it. That person would look at it under those circumstances at that time. It's not like being a backyard, backyard quarterback or whatever. You can't be able to say, well, you've been trained this way and that way, and that is a factor that comes in. But you have to look at it as it looks to that particular defendant at the time. You have to have an honest and reasonable belief that you are going to be killed or murdered. So she alleged, when she says she hears this knock, she's afraid, she just goes into action. The fact of the matter is, it has to be honest and reasonable.
In the state of Texas, a police officer, was it Samantha Geiger?
Yes.
Samantha Geiger found guilty, and this was so fascinating to me, found guilty of murder. Now, that's the highest of the crimes, and yet she received a 10-year sentence in the killing of Botham Jean, who was sitting at home watching television and eating ice cream when she entered his apartment. Stay with us. Attorney Vonda Evans from Vonda's Law joining us here on the Milred Gaddis Show. And if you have any points you want to make or questions you want to ask from a legal perspective or an emotional perspective, feel free to do that. Give us a call at 298-1059. I'm Milred Gaddis. We'll be right back.
Total Healthcare USA serves you better because they listen to what you want from a health plan provider. You want services that are there for you to provide preventive care and healthy lifestyle education. That's why